Next, we'll be discussing some popular reports in iceReporting. Starting off with the queue contact time report. This report will show you the number of queued contacts that were handled in your queues. And it's also going to show you those contacts that were abandoned in queue. These are callers that hang up before they can reach an agent. You will also see removed from the queue, which is when a caller goes to your voicemail or callback queue. This report will also show you the grade of service, which is the percent of contacts you're handling in less than your target time in ICE Administrator. This report is useful in analyzing the customer experience. And at the last page of the report, you will also see a grand total, which summarizes your stats for the queues that you have selected. So in this example, for the dates of January 21 to 27, on January 26th, the regional sales queue was offered 10 contacts in queue, 9 were handled, 1 was abandoned, and 0 were removed. Next, we have the queue contact user time report. The queue contact user time report is similar to the queue contact time report, but it doesn't show you any contacts who have been removed from queue. It will show you, though, the average on-call time per queue. The average time on contact is how long the user spent on contacts from queue, and then the wrap-up column is the average amount of time that user spent in the wrap-up state after getting a contact from queue. So in this example, between January 21 to 27, for the regional sales queue, on January 26, they have been offered a total of 10 contacts. 9 were handled in this queue, with the average time being 1 minute and 5 seconds. 1 was abandoned, so that caller hung up before they can reach an agent. Next, we have the complete user performance reports. This will give you a summary of the queued and non-queued contacts that the user has handled, as well as the duration that they've spent in each of the contact handling states. For example, in this report, for the whole month of January, Brian had received a total of 355 queued calls. He's made 12 outbound calls. He's had 22 unanswered queued calls. His logon duration was 137 hours and 42 minutes, and his total queue call time was 9 hours and 48 minutes. And then on the right side, you can also see his total line of business code selected, as well as how many times he pressed not ready reasons, and also their duration. Next, we have the user by queue activity call report. So this report is intended to give you a general view of the number of queued voice calls that have been handled by the user or users that you've selected per queue for the report type interval that you've also chosen. So this report provides all queue-related activity for voice calls handled, and will also give you the average call time, wrap-up time, how much time they have put their contacts on hold, and also other queue-related activity. You can also see how many times calls were blindly transferred to the user or cold transferred, and how many times queued calls were unanswered. So in this report, for this example, between January 21 to 27, on January 23rd, Brian was being alerted for calls from queue for a total of 26 seconds. He got 2 queued calls that he received. His total queue call time is 5 minutes and 35 seconds, and he was on wrap-up for a total of 1 minute. And you can also see that he had 0 unanswered calls. Next, we have the inbound contact summary report. And this will show you the number of inbound contacts that were received. And out of those contacts received, it will also show you those that were in workflow only and rejected. You can also see how many of those contacts were queued and contacts that were handled in those queues. So for the contacts that were queued, you can see their average queue time. You can also see any abandoned and also any removed contacts. And then the last column will just show you how many of these contacts were outbound contacts. The inbound contact summary report also has an action chart. So here you can enable this, where you can see how many contacts you got per week. So since this report was set weekly from January 1st to February 6th, you can visually see here the percent of time that your contact spent in queue being handled on outbound, and other.